Welcome to Conversations with Leaders in Luxury. I'm Greg Furman, founder and chairman of the Luxury Marketing Council. Since 1994, 1,000 luxury brands in 43 cities worldwide, some 5,000 CEOs and CMOs. Today, I'm delighted to be with Michael Lees, who is the Chief Marketing Officer for Wealth Engine. Recently, I think we were just saying within the last week and change. So, Michael, it's great to be with you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your continuing membership in the council. This is, I think, going into our third year. It's a treat to be with you. And tell us a little bit about you. East Coast kid, West Coast kid. What did you study? What got you into this business?
Neither coast kid.
Okay,
I'm an English kid.
Across the pond kid.
Exactly. So some people get confused by the accent. So I am English, north of England, born and bred. Moved to the US
Where north of England?
in Manchester, where the soccer comes from.
Yeah. Okay.
Although I grew up as a rugby fan, so if you're going to ask me which football team I support, neither Manchester United nor Manchester City. So rugby players. I grew up playing rugby, following rugby. My family was a rugby family, so never followed the soccer thing. So I always square that question away straight away. Neither Manchester United nor Manchester City.
Okay, that'll avoid all terrorist attacks.
So I'm both a West Coast and East Coast kid. So I moved to San Diego in 2004. I had a technology startup company in the UK. Originally, I was the UK equivalent of a CPA, chartered accountant in the UK.
If I may say, you don't strike me as
I wasn't, which is why I'm no longer a CPA. I wasn't the classic CPA, cut out to be a classic CPA.
It's still dangerous to have the discipline, right?
You ask my CFO, and it's definitely dangerous to have the financial background. When it comes to negotiating budgets, I'm definitely, I think, more than a match.
Onward marketing.
But it is as a marketer, it's a great foundation for really understanding how marketing fits into the business. At the end of the day, everything's got to be profitable, everything's got to drive revenue. So having a solid understanding of the financials has been a fantastic background.
One of my favorite books is a book by Theodore Reichheld called The Loyalty Effect. He was one of the founders of Bain Consulting, and the beauty of it, to your point about the strength of a financial perspective, is that he has evolved an equation for marketers that calculate referrals, longevity, the impact of loyalty over time on profitability. And it's the first time in all my years of marketing, it's been around for a while, that you can actually, a marketer can actually go toe to toe with a CFO and say, here's the way you got to think about it.
But that's one of the big things now with marketing. People used to say marketing was an art, not a science. Now, I don't think it's completely a science, but it's an art and a science. I can now go into my board meetings, to my senior management meetings, and I can go in armed with data, and I can show a return on investment. I can track leads. I can do all of that good stuff, which is pertinent to us as a business, given we're a data-driven business. But I think it is essential to have that financial background, that data-driven background.
And to talk a little bit about your experience that took you to Wealth Engine, but I want to come back to this whole issue of data, marketing, and its increasing relevance to luxury brands. But just to fill in.
So to finish the picture, I went from CPA into, I was a technology analyst and fund manager throughout the 1997 to 2001 dot-com boom, which was an interesting time to be a technology.
For one of the private banks?
For a pension fund in the UK. So went through that, which was great. It gave me a really good exposure to the technology market.
Doubly dangerous now at this point.
Although I actually quit that job to found a company about 6 months before the NASDAQ peaked. So my performance as a fund manager looks phenomenal. Right. It looks as if I made a conscious decision to call the top of the market, when in actual fact it was purely fortuitous that I left at the time that I did. So I got sick of making money for other people and went to do my own startup. And again, just sort of...
and what year are we in now?
That was about late 2000, early 2001. Okay. Took some technology from the University of Manchester, formed a company. We're lucky enough to get some great Series A investors. Nokia Venture Partners invested in us. Nice. And then grew the company a little bit in the UK. But most of our customer base was in the US. So did a second round of funding, and we were just talking about this at lunch today, actually. I remember sitting in a London meeting room, a rainy Tuesday afternoon. We got an offer for Series B investment funding, and they said, we'll give you the money, but only if you pick the company up and move it to Southern California.
So, hence San Diego.
Hence San Diego. So I thought about that for all of 4 seconds, and we moved the company pretty much lock, stock, and barrel to the west coast of the US. Nice. I was there for 5 years. Ultimately sold that company to another company that was on the East Coast, hence I'm also an East Coast boy. I'm now in the Washington, D.C. area. Okay. And my marketing thread throughout all of that it was that when the Series B money came into my company, Cerebra, they brought, as often happens, they brought their CEO in, and I was sort of left thinking, okay, I want to stay involved in this.
Or what next?
Passionate about it. What do I do? So yeah, I thought, oh, well, let's go and do the marketing thing. So that was 2002, 2003. So I went and ran marketing for that company, and then that was just the start of it. So I've done this now this is my 5th company.
Well, to where we were before you finished out the rotation, so to speak. You know, what I've seen in 20 years, which I'm sure you have shared, is that luxury brands, whether it be financial services or even if you consider .com and the evolution of .com a luxury in terms of saving time and its innovative aspects as it impacts the market, for years, you know, had people within promoted up to marketing, but without the discipline of classic packaged goods integrated marketing.
And classic route into marketing,
And finally, what I'm seeing, the world of luxury being dominated by the French and the Italian brands who have, you know, in their minds invented luxury, but often are family run, and for whom marketing has historically at least been seen as a cost and would how would you say, elevate buyers or people within the family with no classic training either in measure of leads or brand value or any of that. And now the movement, which I'm sure Wealth Engine is going to play a huge role in helping brands to better understand the impact of quantifying purchase and better target and segmenting.
Right, and we see the range. You know, we work with a range of companies, and we see the range of fairly unsophisticated brands, and we work in the non-profit space as well. From a marketing perspective, who need a broader set of services, and we do everything. We'll get on to talking about what Wealth Engine does, but we have a range of support services. So for those customers that don't have the sophisticated marketing, we can take on a lot of that for them. But yeah, we're increasingly dealing with a lot of luxury brands that are getting very sophisticated in the way that they approach the market, looking to do fairly deep analytics on the customer base that they already have. In order to find patterns and trends, predictive analytics to go and find that buyer out in the broader market as well. So, but all of them are sort of typified by this need in the luxury goods segment to really understand your customer in a way. I mean, it's marketing 101. Right. Understand your customer in a way that you never have before. Right. You know, particularly in the luxury goods market, mass demographic marketing, mass marketing really doesn't cut it when you're at the top end. You've got I call it the personalization of marketing. It's one-on-one marketing, it's not demographics. Yeah. So you need to have that one-on-one relationship, which means you need to understand that customer in a way that you never have before. It's more intimate than it ever has been before.
Precisely, and it's also moved from the old days paradigm of push to an engage and pull the customer in, particularly as you get into the rarefied sphere of best customer.
Exactly, yeah. And customer retention, and marketing typically hasn't been involved in the retention process. Marketing's typically been involved in getting that net new customer, that net new lead into the pipeline. And what we're finding now, and I face this as a CMO of an organization, and it ties into the economics argument, the economics of me marketing to and retaining and upselling and cross-selling an existing customer is far better than going and having the high acquisition cost of a net new customer.
Couldn't. That's been the premise for the council since the recession hit, and the aspirational and symbolic buyer who were buying a little bit of luxury, but a lot of it, and there were a lot of them. And since, I'd say, 2008, I haven't heard any sign that they're back. Right. So the strategy, as you obviously know from what you've said, has been to, one, retain and grow share of wallet of the best customer, which means that the brand has to understand what share of the portfolio of their products and services they have, and how to inspire them to move into other categories, which is a pretty sophisticated strategy.
It is. And it highlights how little we all know about our existing customers. And one of the big things that most of the customers that we deal with, our customers that are facing that flipping the funnel challenge, you know, it's no longer a big wide funnel at the front end and narrow at the back end. Yeah. The value and the breadth is on the back end.
Yeah, I like that analogy, flipping the funnel.
I think it was actually the name of an article or a book, Flipping the Funnel. I won't claim credit for that.
I still like it.
It is absolutely the case. Yeah. But and what a lot of those customers are doing with us is they are taking their existing customer base and they're appending that data with the data that we know about those customers. Mm-hmm. So we have rich and deep data on the lifestyles, the aspirations, even the personalities of the people that they're doing business with, and they're able to append that customer data to find out more about them so that they can make new connections, make new associations with those customers in a way they haven't before.
Well, this is the second interview that I've been able to do with Wealth Engine, but for people that are coming into this interview not having seen the other, maybe talk a little bit about Wealth Engine and the value proposition, which you're starting to get into, and lay out the land and description of what value and who you are facing Cartier or Dunhill or Montblanc and luxury brands.
So at the most basic level, Wealth Engine is a marketing intelligence solution. We have wealth intelligence on every household in the US, which means we can tell you, this data is generally available and there are other providers. Most providers provide it at the zip code level or the demographic level. We can provide very accurate data on the propensity of a US household to spend on your good or your service. So for example, in a particular zip code, what we provide that's not been able to be done before is you might have two individuals, one living in a $5 million home, the other living in a $5 million home. To all intents and purposes, they're both as affluent as each other. It turns out one of those guys has mortgaged himself to the hilt. It's his only home. He's got no liquidity, no propensity to spend. The other one, it's his fifth home. He's bought it for cash. So two very different individuals in terms of a wealth profile. So we can provide the wealth scores on that level and get very granular, and we have wealth scores on every US household.
And you can go into product category and proclivity to buy by segment, whether it be retail or travel.
Exactly. So then we go beyond that. So and the other thing to mention is, that US household level is really important because a lot of people focus and associate wealth with the top 10%. And sure, the top 10% control 50% of consumer spending in North America now, but there's this notion of the mass wealthy. It's no longer just the top 10%. There is a mass wealthy population that can increasingly afford these goods and services. So we come down the stack more than that.
How demographically or income-wise would you define that group? Salary-wise, or
I mean,
where do you start and how high do you go?
It's relative. It's relative to the market that we're selling to. So what is wealthy for the manufacturer of a 100-foot yacht is very different to what is wealthy to a car manufacturer or a watch manufacturer. So it's really, for us, wealthy. It's really relative to the market that we're serving.
So as you face, to say it differently, but say it back to you, as you face, let's say, a manufacturer of 150-foot yachts, motorized yachts or sailing vessels, you can classify or pull from your data the types of people that would be able to buy and engage. And let's say you're talking maybe Tiffany's and maybe the first wedding ring at $20,000, you can then scale to that as well.
Exactly. And that's really the value that we have of covering that spectrum of all US households, because at some level we're all wealthy. To someone somewhere we're all wealthy. Right. But the base of our analytics is wealth. The key thing for us, though, is we go beyond wealth.
You do buying behavior as well.
We do buying behavior and we do affinity. So, as a wealthy individual, you've got to the point where you're lucky enough to be able to express your personality and lifestyle through the way you spend your wealth. And as a marketer, you need to understand that personality and lifestyle in order to connect with that individual. And that's really the rich data that we provide. So the wealth score is almost just a qualifying factor. Mm-hmm. What you really want to know is, does this guy or girl, how many cars do they own? Where do they vacation? How many kids have they got? What schools did their kids go to? What sports teams do they associate? And we have that data. We pull data from. We're essentially a big data company. It's a big trend in our industry, and we pull data from hundreds of sources in order to give that richness and the context for the individuals that they're selling to.
And are you primarily North American, or are you global at this point?
At this point, we're North America and UK predominantly.
Okay. Yeah. Is the penetration into the luxury arena a relatively recent one for you, and do you go from mass to class? historically, or?
So our history as a company, we've been around since the 1990s. Our history has been in the non-profit space.
Okay.
So helping fundraisers manage campaigns and annual campaigns.
And access patrons.
Exactly. Yeah. So for example, we could go to a hospital and we could help them analyze people who, for example, have been patients and go back, and they're usually a great source of future giving. Yeah. So we can go to a hospital and they can say, well, show me all the people in a certain wealth bracket who, and append it with their patient lists, and we can show them who would be good candidates, propensity to give on a future basis. So that's our history in terms of non-profit.
The council, just as a note, has about 13 not-for-profits as members of the council. Metropolitan Museum of Art, Pegasus, which is therapeutic writing for autistic children, Food Bank, Sanctuary, which is for abused women and children, a number of not-for-profits. And one of the things that I think is changing in that arena, it's an interesting thing from my point of view that they actually engage with us so as to have access to the community of corporate patrons. But what I'm seeing, it'd be interesting to hear what you think about this, is that more and more of them are not just looking for a dole, but they're also looking to partner on a good business basis with the patron brands. Are you seeing that trend in your counseling of the not-for-profit sector?
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing more and more. Yeah, we're seeing the need and the desire to establish a long-term relationship with the donors that they're working with, and we're seeing that in the commercial space as well. You know, it's back to our previous point that, you know, if you can understand not just my customer now or a potential customer now, but you can understand how their lifestyle and aspirations are changing over time, then you've got a better chance of continuing to connect and engage them so that you can monetize them over a longer period. So we're definitely seeing that sophistication in terms of developing long-term relationships and frequent givers or frequent spenders. And similar to what we said about the commercial market before, what we've noticed and what I've noticed is in the non-profit side, the level of sophistication in marketing has increased dramatically in the last few years. Yeah. Well, they've had to. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of people targeting the mass wealthy, whether it's non-profit or luxury brands. So they've had to become more sophisticated in targeting those individuals.
Well, we've seen over the years, the person that preceded you this afternoon with one of our interviews was the woman that is the head of partnerships and collaborations for Sotheby's. And one of the things we were saying is that a lot of the brands are now retaining and bringing in marketers who don't necessarily have depth in the business, meaning auction or retail or fine jewelry, who have the chops from a marketing perspective to advise deeply, right, and along the lines that Wealth Engine advises and provides data, who have the ability to get smart on the business fast.
Right. Yeah, no, and we're definitely seeing that, and we help them walk that journey. So there's a few things we do for our customers. At the very base level, we just allow them to generate prospect lists. So that's often the first way we get engaged with our customers, just go and identify potential customers or givers.
Based on their intuitions.
Right, yeah. So we would sit down with them, we would model what a good customer looks like, and we would go and find, based on those criteria, people in their catchment area that satisfies those criteria. So that's one thing that we do. The other side of the business that we get involved in is sort of deep analytics as to their existing customer base for two reasons. One, to generate that long-term relationship, and the other is to go and find other people like them. So classic marketing 101, you know, I'm only successful as a marketer if I can really segment the people that I want to target, and the best source of data on how to segment is the people that you've already sold to.
Yeah, and through collaborations and partnerships with kindred spirit brands, the quickest way without excessive costs of finding new customers, because 60% of the luxury brands have 60% of the same customers. It's just not the same 60%.
So I'm a high-end travel provider, and I realize from the data that 50% of my customer base also owns a Mercedes. Great new opportunity.
Do you provide a consulting platform as well, where you would, once you've done the analytics and said, here's the similar group, and suggest partnerships and collaborations for your clients?
We absolutely do. So we're an interesting mix of technology company, innovative technology company. We're a software as a service provider at our core, but it's definitely an emphasis on service. So we work closely with our customers in getting them on board, and we have a consulting group that works with them over time as their maturity with marketing and customer engagement.
So one of the trends that we've seen, Mike, is that the brands now, given the nature of the market and the limitations of the numbers of best customers, are looking to deepen the relationship with the best customers, which means they have to have a good sense and understanding of historical buying. And the concept of sales as a way to drive them in does nothing more than shed a spotlight on the margins. So what more and more brands are doing is making special limited offers to customers, say a Brioni customer, that migrates them out of, I'm making it up, sports or evening wear into shoes, belts, accessories for limited special offers. But to do that, to your métier, they have to understand historical buying and be able to segment those offers meticulously enough to broaden the portfolio of their best customers' buying habits. And I think that's been a big strategy for a lot of luxury brands.
Right, yeah, and we see that a lot. We see, again, it all comes full circle, that if the more you can sell to an existing customer, again, it all comes back to economics. But I think one of the big trends in marketing, that, and not just in luxury goods, is if you've done the job correctly and you built a product that fundamentally satisfies a need for customers, then marketing's job is to get the customer to try that product. Once you get them to try that product and the experience your brand values, then it becomes relatively easy to keep them. So whether it's a limited time sale, whatever it is, you need to understand how that product that you built, the attributes of that product, and go and match it to the intimate knowledge you've got of that customer. And then once you've made that connection, then those are the customers that are customers for life. The key thing is, though, that the affinity of that customer changes over time.
Yes.
And I think that's something that marketers forget. So, I may not be a particularly wealthy customer this year, but I may sell my company later this year, and all of a sudden I have a huge liquidity event. So, we really don't have a transaction with our customers, which is why we're a subscription model. Customers want to come back and keep track of their customers' affinity, their lifestyle, their aspirations, their buying habits, so that they can identify when those things shift. So this year, I may be in the market for a $5,000 watch. I have a liquidity event in December. Next year, I may be in the market for a $50,000 watch.
That's a very powerful point. In fact, maybe I'll take you up on, if you accept my offer, a point where we should together think about doing a program around this. The shifting base of customers that brands think they know, that can have radical shifts and impact the way they buy and the way in which brands sell to and engage them.
Right.
All right, I'll take you up on it.
Yeah, I think there's two trends there. One is, I think a lot of people, to our previous point, a lot of brands, a lot of marketers in general don't know their customers as well as they need to or think they do. And it's interesting when you show them the data. One of my favorite, even in the short time I've been with Wealth Engine, one of my favorite moments is when you actually start showing customer data about themselves, or more importantly, when you show chief marketing officers and executives the data we have about them, which is a separate conversation.
It sounds like a good selling tool.
Exactly, it is. And it is frightening the amount of information that is accessible. So I think one is that point, and then the other point is, you don't just want a snapshot of that customer today. You want to keep...
It's a continuum.
It is, because people change.
I think it's a great point. Listen, I wish we had more time. We'll have to do a dinner and a couple glasses of wine on these themes.
Scotch is my thing.
Scotch is good. We got some good Scotch members of the council. We'll share some together. So it's delightful to meet you today, and I wish you lots of success. And Wealth Engine, my thanks to you and them for being members of the council, and look forward to doing some interesting things together.
Likewise.
Thank you, Mike. I really appreciate it. And thank you all for joining us today at Conversations with Leaders in Luxury. I'm Greg Furman, founder and chairman of the Luxury Marketing Council. Today with Michael Lees, Chief Marketing Officer of Wealth Engine. Thank you for the investment of your time and the luxury of your company, and wishing you a great 2014.